You find yourself lost in Irvingland. Last time, the scanner on the Jupiter 2 showed a missile-like object approaching them, intent unknown. When we saw the item, it looked like a spaceship of some kind, but it's hard to tell. And the Robinsons didn't get the camera angle that we did, so they don't even know that.
There's just a possibility it may change its course. Till we know for sure, we better sit tight.
It's getting awfully close.
Is your force field up, and is it strong enough to make that thing bounce off it? They won't need to find out because the object makes a soft landing. The men, including Dr. Smith, whether he likes it or not, and Will, who insists he's responsible for it being here so they can't leave him out now, take the robot and go to investigate. Near the object, the robot detects something approaching.
Howdy!
Not quite the horrible electron-eating space monsters Dr. Smith envisioned. The first thing I thought of when I saw this guy was Panem on Creel from the early Shannara books. I guess the first three questions we need to ask are, Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot?
Halt! His footwork's gonna have to be a lot more nimble than that if he figures on hitting me. Hapgood's my name, boys. Jimmy Hapgood.
I'm John Robinson.
Howdy.
Basically, he's just roaming around the galaxy in Traveling Man, his ship, seeing what he can see. He zoomed in on their signal because he had no idea he might find other humans out here. Wherever here is, he doesn't know their position any better than they do. He just points Traveling Man that away and goes.
So you don't know any more about this little planet than I do you, Zach?
I was right, his ship is a giant shuttlecock. And you can guess what Smith thinks of being called Zach. As if Jimmy cares. He is what he is, and for the moment you're stuck with it. Will is explaining that they haven't explored the whole planet yet.
How about its son? You know its name?
No, sir.
Well, how about that? Then you're all just like me, ain't you? You lost as a wood tick on a ball mountain.
It's a terrible thing, being lost.
Sure is. If you're inclined to misery.
Early 80s design, isn't it?
Yeah, 82. That's the year it took off. Old 600, June the 18th, 1982.
That's more than 15 years ago.
Oh, it's all of that, Sonny.
What was your original mission?
A Saturn landed.
I'm not sure what was going on in Hollywood in the mid-60s, but somebody forgot to tell writers that you can't land on a gas giant. In my TV Fails series, the show It's About Time refers to landing on Jupiter. That was a sitcom, so we might be able to forgive. This is supposed to be a serious sci-fi show. We already knew that Saturn's surface is gas, not solid, and it's several thousand miles thick. Now, if he had said he was supposed to land on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, that might be believable. So what happened? Apparently, he at least realized that trying to land on Saturn was a bad idea.
Well, now, maybe I did look in on the wrong star. Curiosity. You know, curiosity killed a cat one time, boy.
Nobody ever finishes that one, even though Jimmy there is a perfect example of it.
Since then, there ain't hardly a spot in this galaxy I ain't touched. But I never did find a path that'd take me home. I guess they must have written me off back there a dozen years ago.
Except that wasn't what we did with astronauts who, as far as we knew, paid the ultimate price. We enshrined them and made heroes of them. Kids studied them in school, which means these guys should have known about him already. Everyone but Will heads back to the ship. Will can help Mr. Hapgood decontaminate and secure his ship, then show him the way to the Jupiter 2. The decontamination process has Will fascinated.
You see, there could be spores on this planet, or bacteria. And it could mix with alien spores that I might have brought in with me. Ain't no telling what could breed from that if I didn't do this.
Setup complete, Will offers to do it for him. That'll give Jimmy a chance to do the important stuff.
Right. One of these days, I'm gonna find something a man can smoke with enjoyment.
Considering it looks like your engine's incinerated it, I'm surprised there's anything left to burn. Or maybe vape, since I didn't see any actual flames there.
Hey, Mr. Hapgood, wait for me!
If he does have any real fire, he might want to use it there. Back at the Jupiter 2, John is getting a crazy idea. He's reasonably sure he and Don can help Hapgood find his way back to Earth.
You remember when we first discussed our plans for the space flight? We couldn't decide whether we had the right to bring Will and Penny along.
Yes, I remember.
Have you ever regretted our decision?
Yes, she has, but it's obvious Will and Penny haven't. They're having the experience of a lifetime, they're adapting, and they're happy being with their family. Yeah, they're in the weirdest situation anybody their age could ever imagine. But look at Will with Mr. Hapgood. He's loving it. Look at Penny with those plants. Remember, her thing is botany. How many botanists on Earth get to study the plants she's looking at right now? Ask them.
It's possible to let them go. No. Hapgood's ship is big enough if we pull the ballast tanks.
John, no. You know what you're saying?
You're saying let's send our children off into space in a tiny capsule with a total stranger that we just met and know nothing about. You're saying you've lost your friggin' mind. And you may have noticed Dr. Smith is listening in.
Delightful child. You are happy here, aren't you, my dear? Of course you are.
You can hear the wheels in his head squeaking. They show Jimmy the Jupiter too. There's one piece of equipment that he's especially interested in.
Navigational guidance system and spectroscope. It's a dandy piece of hardware you got there, boys. I wouldn't have no trouble getting home with a thing like that, would I? And then there'd be no more marathons so old Jimmy Hapgood. I'd settle down a little launch pad of my own.
He sounds really enthused about it. He mulls it over and concludes that the machine is too big. There's no way he can make room for it in his ship. So never mind Earth and that little launch pad.
You give up too easily, gentlemen. Couldn't help overhearing.
Especially since it's obvious you came into the ship so you could hear.
You may relax, gentlemen. I've just solved your problem. What you people seem to have overlooked in your great haste to send Mr. Hapgood on his way is that we have a smaller but identical mechanism that will definitely do the trick.
And just where do you expect to find that?
The robot has such a unit built in. All they have to do is build it out, and Mr. Hapgood has his navigational aid. Smith makes a big production out of performing delicate surgery on the robot. I think it's supposed to be funny, but watch the episode and judge for yourself.
I don't think I want to go, Mother.
Your accent is slipping, Penny.
Neither do I.
It's not a question of choice, children. Going back to Earth is something your mother and I believe is right for you.
And we wanted you to be prepared before we speak to Mr. Hapgood about it.
Well, if you think it's best, Mother.
That's better. She did do a decent American accent.
We do, dear.
Is that all, sir?
Yes, that's all. Now off to bed with you.
It's time to go present their idea to Mr. Hapgood.
Hey, I hate to eat and run, but I got to get back to the ship. I got to lay in that guidance system. And John, I ain't got enough solar energy stored up by now, don't you think?
I was wondering what his ship runs on and how he replenishes it. It's interesting that he can travel the whole galaxy on solar energy, while the Jupiter 2 has to have atomic power to get it to Alpha Centauri.
Oh, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Jim.
John and Maureen drop the other shoe.
Let me get this straight. You want me to take Will and Penny and Traveling Man and go where?
Well, back to Earth, Jim.
You gotta be joking.
Now, this is no joke. You've got a very good chance of getting back.
Forget it.
You guys aren't reading him. He doesn't want to go back to Earth. He's not ready to go back to Earth. He was just pointing to the stars and saying they look like they're there for the taking. Does that sound like somebody who's ready to retire to that little launch pad?
Hapgood. I think you owe him an apology. Get out of my way, Sonny. I said you owe him an apology. I don't owe him nothing, but I thank you for a meal that quit giving me pleasure about 2 minutes ago. Now get out of my way.
When was the last time that actually accomplished the desired goal?
Is that your best shot? Yeah! Come on here, boy. Try it again. Right there. Come on. Right.
Freaking testosterone, I'm telling you. The next morning, Hapgood is leaving his mark on the planet while Dr. Smith wants to talk about an alternative to taking the kids.
They don't belong in Traveling Man any more than I belong here on this benighted planet.
Well, now, that was a chance you took when you volunteered.
I volunteered? Oh, my dear Jimmy, I was literally shanghaied.
The term Shanghai isn't used that much anymore. It comes from an especially nasty practice in the 18th and 19th centuries where you would drug a man, then put him on a ship and set sail. When he woke up, he had no choice but to either work on the ship or take a flying leap over the railing. It came to be called Shanghaiing because Shanghai was the most common destination for these ships. Seattle was one of the major ports where these sorts of operations happen. We should be so proud. And obviously, that's not exactly what happened to Dr. Smith. His game is Jimmy should take him along and toddle on back to Earth. That way, instead of two snot-nosed kids, he'd have an intellectually stimulating companion. I'm sure the prospect of traveling space with Zach just tickles Jimmy's heart.
Well, you know, Zach, you being such a good engineer and all, I think you'd better engineer yourself another way out of this. Because traveling men don't carry no passengers.
What on earth is that supposed to mean?
Always leave my mark any place I go.
He should hand Dr. Smith the gun so he can write "So was Zach" underneath it.
You still mad? No. I'm just sorry I didn't hit you any harder. Was a pretty good fight, wasn't it? Yeah, that it was.
Frickin' testosterone, I'm telling you. He's off to do a pre-flight check on Traveling Man, and Robinson and Don are doing whatever it is they're doing with whatever that is.
All right.
Whatever it is, it wasn't supposed to do that. He's resting in the Jupiter 2.
How are you feeling?
Oh, all right. I'll be all right in the morning, according to Zach. What's that?
Well, I call it space chowder.
I've been more trouble to you folks than an old goat in a paper mill.
Oh, not at all. Why, you've probably saved the men a month's extra work.
How? What did he do besides get in the way of a giant sonic screwdriver and hurt his back? The next morning he's fine and off to run that pre-flight check. Will and Penny are along to help, which is to say, gaze at his ship and wonder at all the doodads. Those are not doodads. Hapgood makes his way into the ship and gets the bug killer. Will and Penny, precocious and brilliant children that they are, walk into the big fat middle of it. My mistake, fall butt first into the big fat middle of it. We get a dramatic rescue with Hapgood pulling Penny out of the thing and Will spraying decontaminant everywhere but on the thing that's got Penny. Once it's over, Jimmy changes his mind. He'll take the kids. I think that convinced him it's too dangerous for them out here. Everyone admires him for his change of heart.
You can't be serious, Jimmy.
Almost everyone.
Two noisy, whining children, always wanting a drink of water, no intelligent adult conversation while you go quite mad before you reach Earth.
Well, I'd be happy to take you along with me, Zach. This is the right thing I'm doing, and I'm going to do it.
On the Jupiter 2, Smith is filling the kids' heads with all kinds of stuff about how they have to be brave and make sure they go, even though their parents might have tears in their eyes and seem to be changing their minds. But then again, these are their parents.
I wouldn't blame the average child for refusing to go if he learned how happy his parents would be if he stayed. In fact, I think the average child would probably do something quite ridiculous. Run away and hide.
Jimmy is ready to go and can't delay, the kids are nowhere to be found, and Dr. Smith is on his way to Jimmy's ship to stow away if necessary.
Sure will be nice getting back. Settle down the little launch pad of my own, maybe. Up-to-date space jitney. I could run charter flights to the moon. Don't sound too exciting, though, does it, Jimmy?
About as exciting as a seafarer exploring his bathtub. Is anybody surprised?
Hapgood! Hapgood, come back! Come back! You can't do this to me! Don't leave me here!
Okay, one person is surprised. I don't think it requires any explanation, but he'll give it to us anyway.
Look, I was all set to take them with me. But they weren't too keen on going back to Earth, and that's the truth. Well, and yet, neither was I, and you get right down to it.
Well, we thought you were.
Well, so did I.
He realized there's nothing waiting for him on Earth. Out here, he's got the whole universe to explore and the rest of his life to explore it. Let's face it, back on Earth, after 15 years, he's been declared dead. Everybody he knew has moved on. Want to see awkward? There you go. He made the right decision, and they all know it. He talks a while longer, then he's interrupted.
Getting a little busy out here, John. There's a Nova coming in. It's all purple and silver and gold. Hey! Look at it go, boy! I'm gonna get back to you later.
Unless he means a Chevy Nova, here we go again. A nova is an exploding star. It's a star that's reached the end of its life. They don't come into anything. They stay in place and go kaboom. And by the way, Jimmy, they're really, really, really big. If you're that close to one, you're a pot roast now. Too bad you didn't take Dr. Smith with you. That could have made a nice cliffhanger. But not to worry, we still have 3 minutes of runtime to come up with one.
I've got the explosives. We'll be able to blast through now. Will, get behind that rock.
Yes, sir.
Give me a hand with the rig, Don.
We're drilling for something. I'm going to assume they're digging a water well, but they never actually say in this episode. Everything is hooked up and they're ready to blast. They're all behind those rocks for cover. It was hard to see, and we won't know for sure until next episode, but that's one of their explosive charges. Don must have dropped it on his way. Penny figures her dad will need it.
Daddy?
Cut the blasting switch.
I can't, it's already firing.
Well, check the wires.
We do know how to make a cliffhanger. While I enjoyed the character of Jimmy Hapgood and found him believable, I had trouble getting past both his mission and how his ship works. He said that mark he carved in that rock was his 91st. If he has visited 91 planets in 15 years, he's traveling at least at light speed, maybe faster. And he's doing it on solar energy. All scientists back on Earth had to do was take the plans for Traveling Man, make them bigger, and call the result the Jupiter 2. Don't need atomic engines, don't need cryotubes, don't need 5.5 years to get to the nearest star. But as we've seen with the changes in technology between Traveling Man and Jupiter 2, we're just going to keep improving and upgrading things until they don't work at all. I'll see you next time you find yourself lost in Irvingland. And you may have noticed that Dr. Smith is listening. Good grief. Smith is listening in. Almost had that. Can't even blame my teeth because I don't have them in. Okay.